So we start off very slowly and set the tone for the rest of this course by first of all talking about some of the key principles and the core ideas around which the whole subject of economics is built. And the good thing is that the A-level syllabus allows us to start from the very beginning, and the first thing that we need to know and from where we will start off is this term scarcity. And this is often known as the basic economic problem. Now, this term was first used by this guy over here that you can see at the bottom of your screen, Adam Smith, who is often regarded as the founder of modern economics. Now, Adam Smith thought, or I should say he assumed, that human beings and all of us, we are greedy. And therefore, he said that the needs and wants of each person and therefore the entire society, their total needs and wants are always going to be unlimited. So this is a simple idea. I just don't want to go into the detail of this, but basically what he's saying here is that since no individual is ever satisfied, there is always something that he would want more of, maybe a bigger house, a more car, or more better food, or something that he wants more of. Therefore, as a society, your total needs and wants are always going to be unlimited. And in relationship to these unlimited needs and wants, he said that the resources that are going to be available to any country, and resources being things with which you can make goods and services. And resources, Adam Smith said that they are always going to be a limited amount of resources relative to your unlimited needs and wants. And this is what he called or termed as the problem of a scarcity of these resources. And he said that this is a very important problem because it will have a very important implication. And he explained that by saying that, look, if your resources are limited, then you will always be only able to produce a limited amount of goods and services. And therefore, you will only be able to satisfy some of the needs and wants, but not all of them. Which basically means that this problem of scarcity, limited resources in relationship to unlimited needs and wants, it will force each individual to make choices as to which needs and wants to satisfy and which needs and wants to leave unsatisfied. And this is the second key word in the subject of economics, choices. Economics is all about choices. And the idea is whether you think of an individual in the shape of a consumer or a producer or a government, and these are the three economic agents that we talk about in economics, all of them will face the scarcity in some sense, and therefore all of them will have to make choices. Now, choice, generally when we choose something, think of yourself as a consumer. Let's suppose you really like a laptop. So this is a laptop, and you really like a tablet. But your resource, in this case, the money that you have, if that is limited, then you will have to sort of decide which one will you buy. Now, if you decide to get a laptop, then generally you'll come back very happy that you have bought or chosen a laptop. But the economic way of thinking about this is that, look, in choosing this laptop, you have also automatically chosen to give up this tablet. Now, this idea of, always having to give up something when you are forced to make a choice is important. In fact, this idea of what you give up is how you define cost in economics. In economics, the cost of something is not the money you pay. In economics, we say that everything has a cost, nothing comes for free. So there is a very, a much broader way of thinking about cost. And in economics, we think about cost of each choice you make in terms of opportunity cost. That is, whatever choice you make, not just buying products. Currently, you are choosing to watch this video. Now, in making this choice, there is some other thing that you would have liked to do, which you cannot do now, so you are giving that thing up. Maybe you wanted to sleep, but instead you are just, trying to understand your A-level economics. To do that, you are giving up on your sleep. So that enjoyment you could have gotten from sleeping is the opportunity cost of watching this video for you. Now, I don't want to go in the detail of opportunity cost right now. I'll do a separate video on that. But for now, just remember the technical definition of opportunity cost. The opportunity cost of each choice is the value of the next best alternative that you give up when you make that choice. I'll go into the detail, but for now, I want you to sort of, remember and understand scarcity in the way it links up with this idea of choice and opportunity cost. Don't just memorize resources are limited and needs and wants are unlimited. Fine, but this is the implication, this is the importance. Now, the next idea is that, look, if each individual has to make this choice and each individual will be faced with scarcity, then society as a whole will, of course, be faced with scarcity. And therefore, society as a whole would also have to make certain broad, high-level choices. And those choices are defined through what we say are the three key questions of economics that every society needs to answer. And the three choices they have to make are, first of all, what to produce. Because your resources are limited, you cannot produce everything, so you need to decide what to produce and therefore what not to produce, what to give up, and how much of it to produce. Now, secondly, the society also needs to decide how to produce. Now, this how is again important because your resources are limited, and ideally, you would want to produce a product in a way that, that is most efficient, so that you end up making the largest amount of goods and services with your resources. But the thing here is that, that would usually require you to use more machines and capital, but that would create unemployment. So that is where you have to make this choice, how to produce. Do you go for more efficient mechanized production, or do you go for more labor intensive production, but which creates more unemployment? So there is a trade-off within the society between efficiency and, you can say, equality, between efficiency and employment opportunities. Now, thirdly, the third question is once this product, it has been decided what to produce and how to produce, you also need to decide for whom to produce. Why? Because again, there is scarcity, there are limited resources, you will always have a certain limited amount of goods and services. You will never have enough to satisfy all the needs and wants of all the people. So you need to decide who will get these products that have been produced. So what Adam Smith concluded from all of this was that, look, you can't escape the fact that you will always have to face trade-offs and you will always have to choose from amongst different alternatives. You will have to make choices as to how are you going to use these limited resources. And if you make the best optimal choices, you may end up achieving the best optimal allocation of these resources. Optimal allocation meaning that you end up using these resources to produce the right exact quantities of those products that ultimately allow you to satisfy the maximum wants of the people in your society. And that is where economics comes in. It's a subject that claims that, look, I can tell you how to make these best optimal choices and therefore achieve this best optimal resource allocation. Economics tries to tell you to attain or achieve the best, most efficient use of these limited resources by making the best, most optimal choices. That is what the subject of economics is about. Now, economics, what it gives you is not a formula like 2 + 2 = 4 that you can always follow and therefore always get to this optimal resource allocation. No, economics is not a hard science like math, so it's not going to give you these formulas. Economics is a social science. It studies the behaviors of individuals, of human beings. It studies how they choose, how they make choices, and then economics tries to give you two broad approaches, or you can say two broad roadmaps that it suggests that you should follow in making all these individual choices and ultimately attain this optimal resource allocation. And those broad roadmaps, those broad approaches which are the suggestion of the subject of economics to attain this optimal resource allocation are known as economic systems that a country can use. Now, one of those economic systems is known as the planned economy, where the idea is very boring. It simply tells that the government should own all of these resources and the government should decide what to do with these resources, and that will allow you to do the best out of them. On the other extreme, the more interesting economic system, and the one we will be spending most of our time on, is the free market economic system. where the idea is that let the private individuals, let the private people own all of these limited resources and let them decide what they are going to do with them. And this will allow the country to automatically attain optimal resource allocation. Why? The logic is very beautiful and very simple. Again, that came from this guy Adam Smith. The logic of why this free market system would attain optimal resource allocation. He said, well, these private individuals who will own all these resources, these individuals are all greedy, they're all self-interested, and they're all clever people. So in all the decisions they make about what they are going to do with the resources that they happen to own, they will always try to get the maximum benefit at the lowest possible cost. But he said that if every individual does that, then the benefit of the society will automatically be maximized at the lowest possible cost. Which is another way of saying that, look, the society will automatically attain this optimal allocation of resources. So you don't need to do anything as a government. In fact, a free market system requires the government to just stay out of any economic decision making and let these greedy profit-seeking individuals come together, fight it out as consumers and producers, and then just let them pursue their greed. Because when they maximize their self-interest, they will maximize the interest of the society eventually. Now, the question is, which of these two economic systems does countries really use? And the answer to that is that most of the countries, they love this free market economic system and they actually buy this argument of Adam Smith that this is the system that will allow them to attain optimal resource allocation. However, these countries also realize, based on economic theory and based on some of the harsh experiences from reality, these countries do realize that sometimes this free market system, it misbehaves, it malfunctions. In fact, we can say sometimes this market system will fail. And there are some problems associated, some shortcomings of this free market system. So what they do is that they allow most of the economic activity to be run according to this free market system, but when this free market system fails or malfunctions, then they do allow the government to sometimes come into this free market system, interfere in it, and correct the market failures that are being caused, which technically speaking then makes most of the modern countries what is known as a mixed economy. A predominantly free market economy where most of the economic activity is conducted through these free market principles, but there is some government interference. It's not that there is no government at all. And this mixed economy and this thing over here is basically the heart, the crux, the core of the entire A-level micro syllabus. How does this free market work? How does it allow you to attain optimal resource allocation? When does this free market system fail? And when it fails, what can the government do to come and correct it? That's the broad story that the A-level micro syllabus requires you to know. Now, of course, there are going to be a lot of details, a lot of graphs, because we want to build this story in a very theoretical way. And we jump into this crux, this heart of the A-level micro course from section 4. Before that, in section 1, 2, 3, we still will continue to build some of the basics. So what I will do now is that in the next video, I will first of all give you a detailed overview section by section outline of the entire course, so you can keep everything very connected and organized from the beginning. And then we move on in the section 1 and develop some of the other basics.